Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pay Attention. The more I do these podcasts, the more it's amazing to me, the journey and the people I meet and just what pay attention can mean. There's so much meaning behind it. And today I don't know, this will probably come out late, obviously later than it's recording, but sitting here in Southern California, happy that the fires are being contained, still emotional about everything that's going on. And so I'm particularly really warmed and excited about my guest today. So I grew up in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and we had the Ellsworth Air Force Base, still have Ellsworth Air Force Base, just down the road. And so the military meant, a particular thing to me. But today I have a guest who is active in the military, but also teaches mindfulness, yoga, meditation. She's a physician's assistant in the military, has so much that she's giving there. And with her, we're going to go back to the basics. So first I'm going to introduce Adhana McCarthy. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a while. We've been trying to get this coordinated, so I'm so glad it worked out. Can you tell our viewers, just give a little bit of who you are and what you've been up to, and then we'll get started.
Yes, Holly, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I feel you with the Southern California vibe. I was born and raised in Southern California, so to see so much of our home area on fire is just so much.
I can't even talk. Yeah, thanks.
It can be a little overwhelming, right? And we're not even in the thick of it, so I just feel for the folks that are in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But yes, so I'm an Army physician assistant and a yoga therapist, trained in life coaching, trained in lifestyle medicine. And what I do is I help people be better with incremental change, right? So one string of change can change into a whole slew of changes, but you have to find that one habit that is kind of the linchpin habit to unlock it for everyone else.
Yes. Yeah. I love the idea of incremental change. I teach a lot about how the subconscious mind is habit-based, right? And so there's a lot of habits we have that we don't even know that we're reinforcing, that we're living by, that we're making our decisions by. And a lot of it, we struggle with it. We don't know it's there, and then we struggle against it.
I often say that 99% of today's thoughts were yesterday's thoughts, and they probably all sucked also.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the stories we hear in our head are misguiding and destructive. They're not helpful. Yet we use it, we believe them, we take them on as truth, we don't question them. Yeah, and especially now in these kind of seems like divisive times, it seems like maybe what we need to do is maybe just go back to the basics for a while. And I'd love to talk to you about what I learned in my journey, what I thought was amazing, are some of the basic definitions of what, mindfulness is, what meditation is, and why we do it and why we take this inward journey, right? So you're a yogi, right? And what does that mean exactly to be a yogi?
I'm a student of the practice of yoga. And so yoga has 8 limbs, as defined in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And it involves, acts that we have towards ourselves, like our self-discipline. And there's several different principles that guide our behaviors towards ourselves, behaviors towards our community. And those are the first 2 limbs of yoga. And then you have things like asana, which is what people expect when they think about yoga, the postures, right? Then you have the breath, you have the mindfulness in certain increments. Like there's a moment of mindfulness, there's a sort of longer duration of mindfulness, and then this bliss state. And all of these are limbs of yoga, as well as the breath work. So I see a lot of pieces of yoga being put out there and marketed as we'll do breath work, we'll do this, we'll do that. I was like, these are all components of yoga, and you don't have to separate them. Yoga is really an entire system and a lifestyle that people can use to shape their behaviors. It's a tradition that people can use to shape their behaviors over time to be more healthful and to have a better life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What yoga really means is so much more than the postures and the breath work. And it's really that it's really, well, I say that mindfulness is a way of life, right? And it's really, yoga is a path that we can choose, right? That includes a lot of those things. And I really wish that people were more familiar with it. Why would you choose yoga as a way of life? Why would you choose mindfulness as a way of life? And how would you answer that question? Do you have a good answer for that question?
Why would I choose it? Why did I choose it?
Yeah.
It's funny. So I was raised in Southern California,
Yep.
Christian, environment, and, really had a strong connection to spirituality and God, from a very early age, very early age. And so it just seemed like a natural extension for me to have an awareness about what's around me and an appreciation for what's around me,
Mm-hmm.
and to have practices that help to reinforce those ideas for me, no matter where I went. Like, to have the appreciation of seeing a leaf on the ground, or,
Yes.
having the language of how physics is working around me, like, and just to be an appreciation and awe of that every single day. That's
Yes.
what mindfulness is for me. And when it comes to self-talk, which is a really powerful way to use mindfulness, it's that non-judgmental awareness, that
Yes. Yes.
observing what's happening in the mind without saying it's good or bad, but just
Right.
noticing the effect that it's having on my body. Do I feel like I'm constricting because I'm thinking this? Do I feel more expansive because
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking this? And yes, I may attribute some pluses or minuses to those, but in a sense, allowing them to be what they are.
Absolutely. I love that word awareness, right? Awareness is something that a lot of us lack, right? It's the present moment is where everything's happening. The only
True.
place that anything's happening, it's free from anxiety and fear and all of those stories. But if we're not aware of it, we're often lost in our thoughts. And yeah, the very definition of mindfulness, right? Moment to moment, non judgmental, but curious awareness so that we can get off autopilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're on autopilot, we are it's vulnerable to, our stories, what we're hearing in the news, and that triggers anything we have in there that we don't really understand. And even I loved it when I came across the Tibetan word for meditation, gom, right?
Mm.
And it means simply to become familiar with, right? And people can get so bogged down with mindfulness and meditation that it's so hard to do, to sit there and calm the mind and to to stop the thoughts. And I don't know if you take it on as just slowly, like you said, incrementally, as a way of living, as a way of connecting to that deeper part of you that's beyond the thoughts. The thoughts were created once you got here, right?
True. True.
And then we kind of like, oh, that's who I am, and we take it on as our identity because we're not taught any differently. But it's just a stepping inside. It's just a just kind of looking inside and noticing, right? And gently, releasing those stories and habits that don't serve you, right?
So, one of the first yoga sutras is Atta Yoga Nushashanam, and it means now the inquiry of yoga. So, it really is in the same vein of what you're explaining. It's a curiosity. I often say that it doesn't matter if you can quiet your thoughts or not during meditation. It doesn't matter if you can sit completely still. All that matters is that you tried, is that you sat there. The best meditation is the one that's complete. The best yoga session is the one that's complete.
Yeah, when you sit there, when you try, what are you doing? You are becoming familiar with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're unfamiliar with what's going on in our heads and we're on automatic pilot, it's foreign to us. We're almost, I don't know, afraid of it or whatever. And when we go to look at it, there'll be resistance because the brain is wired to protect its programming. So if for
Sure.
years we've been not paying attention and we're just, solidifying that neural net, it becomes very solid and very real. So the first time you go to look at it, you're going to even your self-talk is going to be like, what are you doing? This is stupid. This is never going to work, But it's really becoming familiar with this kind of space, right? The space of awareness, the space between and around, kind of everywhere, and not just in that entanglement of those patterns. And I don't know. For me, I started at 34 on my journey. Sounds like you started a lot earlier than I did, but it's been beautiful, and I've gotten to the point where I can tell if I'm stuck because of the feeling in your body, right? The feelings, the emotions and feelings in your body back up whatever you've been thinking. So if you're feeling anxious or angry, it's because you've created, you sent those chemicals down into your body. It's not because of something outside of yourself. And so I found that, just taking the time to look at it and be with it and just explore it is so valuable. And, this, I don't know, it's a journey well worth taking. And the sooner you start, the better off you are, I'd say.
I don't know which philosopher who said it, but he said, an unexamined life is not worth living. That stuck with me. I think I heard that quote when I was like 16 or something like that. And it stayed with me all this time, because there is something so valuable to understanding where you are in the world. Yes, the brain is going to take heuristics and shortcuts. It's going to shortcut things because it takes a lot of calories to make the brain do all the things that it's can possibly do, right? But as we go through life, it's so important for us to recalibrate, I think is the best word.
Yeah, recalibrate. Yeah, so I got off track earlier, but becoming familiar with what's in there, right? A life not whatever the code
examined,
examined, right? And so, but we are actually in charge of creating that, that landscape, and we have that choice. And no matter what's going on in our world, no matter what we're struggling with right now, we can choose. And it takes a lot of calories to do what this body does, of course. And I describe it as an ocean liner, right? And if you're not paying attention, you're heading in a direction, and it's not going to stay the same. It's going to get worse or more intense. If it's a good direction, great. But if you want to move it, it's slow. And like you said, incremental, right? It's paying attention moment to moment, and it's learning to do that. And walking through your day, and when something comes up and you're triggered, you notice it and you see how your mind and body are reacting, rather than just, acting on impulse. So tell me about teaching in the military, teaching yoga in the military. Where are you stationed, and what's your experience has been like there?
Yeah, so right now I'm stationed at Rock Island Arsenal, which is a little island in the middle of the Mississippi River.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's right in between Illinois and Iowa. But I have been teaching since my first deployment in 2005. I started teaching because I come from a community in Southern California where we did Ashtanga yoga every single day. And so it was just a part of my process. So when I deployed, we had soldiers on the base that were like, ma'am, do you know anyone who teaches yoga? And I was like, no. 2005 yoga was not the thing that it is now.
Right.
And I had a practice. I was like, I'm not an official yoga teacher, but I'll teach you.
Okay.
And so that's what I ended up doing. We ended up going to an isolated part of the base every week, and we would do our yoga every Sunday, and just, over the course of the deployment, really connect with each other, connect with our bodies, and just have that opportunity to have downtime in the middle of being deployed to Iraq. And it was an amazing time. And it became very prescient in the middle of that deployment about why it was important that we were doing what we were doing.
Okay.
The story is, probably mid-deployment, those soldiers, their first sergeant went out on a patrol, and he was killed by an IED. And it was terrible. And devastating for everybody involved. And it was at the memorial ceremony. They held the memorial ceremony at the same location we've been going to do yoga that whole time.
Wow.
And to see his boots and his weapon and his Kevlar helmet, like all arranged like they do for soldiers who have passed, in the space where we had been practicing being okay when things are not okay.
Yeah.
That was the moment I was like, oh, it's not just me teaching, some postures and some breath. It's something deeper that, that's important to continue this work. And that was that pivotal point for me, that spark.
Wow. Wow, that is quite a story. That is quite a story. And thank you obviously for your service. It just makes me tear up. There's this evolution of who we are, right? Of the soul. And so when things happen, or, sometimes we don't always know why, right? But there's a reason. There's a freedom and a peace, I'm sure, that you found in this process. And so sometimes we just have to trust that, right? Trust that part of it. It sounds like you kind of grew up, or you did grow up doing yoga. It was a part of your life. And I love that for you. I love that. I wish it was a part of everyone's life, because it took me a long time to find it and to discover it. But once I kind of started looking, right, it showed up. It's there. It's all around us, right? Yeah, it's all around us and available in the present moment for everyone to access. So, did you find people open to that over the years in the military? And
yeah, over time, it's becoming more and more popular.
mm-hmm.
One of the things that people maybe overlook about the military is it really is a slice of America. So as yoga gets more popular in the U.S., there's going to be more soldiers coming in that either practice yoga, have a friend who teaches or practices yoga. And so it just becomes less foreign and more familiar.
More familiar, right? I love that.
Exactly. I would say about 2011 was like the tipping point where, I was doing my master's thesis for PA school on yoga in the military and applications.
Oh, wow.
And it was that point where there was some research out there, some leaders, but like from that point on, it was just like this exponential growth of yoga research, yoga in the military research, and all kinds of different programming that's all out there. So, I mean, my commanders initially trusted me just because they trusted me.
Nice.
To be reasonable in my application of yoga.
Good.
But over time, they trusted me not only because of who I was, but of how I taught yoga and how I shared it with folks.
Right. How you teach it. Yeah. I practiced Buddhism for 5 years, and they were talking about how meditation was becoming more commercialized, right? You can get it on every corner, and yoga has become an exercise for a lot of people. But there's a deeper part of it. And when you step on this path, for me anyway, and there's a lot of pointers that point back to this calm, right? I mean, you seem very calm to me. I love your energy and your calm. And there's so many pointers, and there's no one way to find that calm, right? But it's a depth, and it's a connection. It's an inner connection to life. Like you said, when you're out walking around and you're looking at the trees and being present, I love that there's just so many different ways to find it, because, even though you might not be aware, your soul is looking for that freedom and that evolution.
Yeah, I like to think of the soul as something that needs like a daily check-in. Like there needs to be, that's what the meditation is for me, or the mindfulness, or even if it's just a mindful minute, like right. Just having that space, that regular practice where divinity knows it's time to come down. Like the divinity within each of us comes down and says, right. Hey, here's some guidance for today. And I'm like, okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
Exactly. Being open to that wisdom, right? I call my newsletters called the Mindful Minute. And it is true that, if you can't do 20 minutes a day, right? Spend I teach 1 minute 6 times a day to practice just watching your mind. And when you can open up, when you can step off that chaos of thoughts and emotions, and I call it thoughts, emotions, and feelings highway, and find that quiet. There's so much intelligence and peace in that quiet that, yeah. And obviously you've been sharing that with people. And do you see people's eyes light up? Do you see them kind of finding their way in your teachings? Or
It's so funny. Like, I've been teaching for over 20 years, and it seems like I may not see right away what the light bulb is for folks. But what I hear people writing back months, years later. Oh, I'm doing a yoga teacher training. You inspired me so much. Or I'm doing this, like all these things. People I would never expect to have shifted in that direction. But like, our experience together was like the spark. And so I think that's so powerful. And to have it show up in places where you didn't expect it, right? Nobody expects yoga in the military.
No,
I have a Facebook group, Yoga in Uniform, and people are like, okay, what's that all about?
Yeah.
I guess you guys really need it. We do. I mean,
everyone. Yeah.
I mean, if people were actually using yoga, I talk about it in my book, but if people use yoga as a way to gird the mind and strengthen the mind with all these different practices, that they can go into high stakes situations and make a better decision in the split second because they have a practice of being in that. I mean, some of the greatest warriors in history in India and Asia, I mean, they all had some sort of mindfulness practice. They were warrior monks. And so to really understand that in order to be the best at your best self, you do need to have that connection to the divine that's inside of you.
Right. That clarity, right? Because if you're making decisions from that chaos, which is mostly negative and unhelpful, in that high stakes moment, it's going to be dangerous, right?
Right. Or if you're making decisions on politics based on social media, like, you
yes.
have to...
Oh, amen. Thank you. Yes. Right. That clarity will help you find that peace, that connectiveness, and that truth. There's a truth there that, people, I don't know, that you can decide for yourself inside. It's a wonderful journey. All right. Well, Adhana, you are amazing. And I'm so glad that you've come today. Is there something you want to leave? And we're going to talk about your community in a second, but is there some kind of tip or something that, our listeners today can do to get started, or any advice you'd like to leave them with?
Yeah. So, I'm not sure if you already teach this in your community, but I did do a box breathing video that I can share with your folks. Okay. So they can just have like a 5-minute practice. It's actually a 3-minute practice.
Love it.
I give it a couple of minutes for people to like know why they're doing it, and a little like hashtag like where they can start to like just do the practice. And then I also have one on working with the elephant and the rider. So the elephant being the subconscious and the rider being the person on top.
Wow. If you're willing to share those, lovely. I will put them in the show notes. So please send me the links for that. Yeah. Thank you so much. I've taught box breathing. I'm not that great at teaching it, so I look forward to watching the video myself. And so you have a community, an online community, is it? Okay. So can you tell us about that and what it involves and how people can join it?
Yeah, sure. So it's called Release to Rise, and just like the conference that you're on, or I was
right. Release to Rise.
You release to rise.
Nice, I love it.
And so that community of practice is a community of people that are trying to be better in their holistic approach to life. So I offer micro practices like the ones that I shared with you, that I'll share with your community. Also fireside chats. So not only do we have like a podcast similar to this, but there's also an opportunity for people to stay on and ask Q&A from some of the experts that I'm bringing on: lifestyle medicine physicians, time mastery experts, journal and voice coaches, confidence coaches, like all these people that are really just, how can you be that incrementally better? What's your entry point?
Oh, I love
and then
it.
offers some yoga and mindfulness things to help guide them along the way.
Because
So,
there are so many pointers, right? So many pointers. I love that. I love that. And you have a retreat coming up.
yes. So in June, we'll be going to India.
Wow.
And the reason why we're going to India is because it's really important to tap into that space where you feel completely cared for, completely nurtured. And
Mm.
so, with multiple hours worth of just sitting and eating at the ocean, multi-course vegan food, but like delicious, like just culturally appropriate, like vegan food. We're not doing fake meats. We're doing like just plant-based nutrition, right? That's
Wow.
based on your Ayurvedic constitution, Ayurvedic practices and treatments every single day. So, like an hour and a half to 2 hours of Ayurvedic treatments every day, multi course meals every day, rest, restoration, in a way that I've not been able to, in any US based retreat, get that level of intimacy, that level of connection, because you're in Kerala. Kerala is like the heart of Ayurveda in India. It's the heart of all of those nourishing body practices and mental practices and blending all of that together. And to have an Ayurvedic doctor come and consult with you and give you practices to do every day, treatments to receive every day, to tap into the body and rest and do this in community.
Wow.
It's
Sign me
beautiful.
up. I mean, definitely we'll put the link in that as well. It sounds lovely. How long's the retreat?
It's a 10-day retreat, and then we continue our community of practice afterwards for a full year
Oh,
afterwards.
oh my
So,
gosh. Please send the link. I'm definitely going to check it out myself. Oh, it sounds beautiful. I have never been to India. So, wow, sounds wonderful. And so, yeah, in the links, I'll have all this information. Thank you so much, Adhana, for sharing your energy today and being here and kind of going back to the basics of what meditation is, what mindfulness is, what yoga is. I appreciate your time.
yes, thank you so much, Holly, for having me. I'm so glad we were able to finally
Me
connect.
too. Me too. And for the listeners out there, I just feel a real peace here in this moment with Adhana, and this peace is available to everyone, and it's all within, and it's no matter what's going on in your world, in your life, it's there for you to explore. So thank you so much for listening to another episode of Pay Attention, and we'll see you next time.